Hi, in this video I will show a brief overview of Cyclo OpenUI feature. This is a relatively new feature that enables you to have full control over how a UI component is rendered. So typically you would use the Agentry IDE, you would define your components, and your components would be rendered with the Agentry player. But you used to have no control of how exactly those components are rendered. But now with OpenUI, you can specify a custom class for these components. And in this case here, I created the same ListView using my custom component. And my custom component uses web content and gets the data from Agentry and renders it in a completely different way. And on top of this, I added new feature to this list, so we now have charts, videos, more images, and social integration. So that's an example of what you can do. Now in this example I used the ListView, but what's interesting here is you basically have full control. So you can use native code, you can extend a label and take this label as a file path and render the 3D model, or you can have integration with smart glasses. Possibilities are endless. Now you may wonder about the different steps to reach the same results, being how to use an OpenUI component on your Agentry player. Well, I'm going to show you an overview. So on the Agentry IDE side, which is basically where you define your application logic, this is where you specify a class name that will be used to render the component. So the project you see here is the project given in the samples of the mobile SDK. And what you see here selected is the standard list. Now I created another one as part of show player screenset, and what it has a field called xListView, which is of type ListView. And by creating this field, you can select it and specify in external fields, you can specify which class name it will use for OpenUI components. So if you specify a class name, the Agentry player will load this class at runtime and will render this component using your code. Now let's switch over to the native side. In this case we have an Android client solution, an Android client resource. All those projects are given to you as part of the SDK samples. And in the client resource project, you will put all your custom class for your custom component. And they will extend a standard Cyclo component. So in this case, my collection display adapter extends collection display adapter. And here I will show you how I create my web view. So you basically have native code, and this is how you create your web view, and you specify the path. And then you can use the model object that is given to you in your native code. And by using the model object, you can get the data that your ListView need. And then I loop over all the properties, and I basically serialize my object into a JSON format. And then we have a web interface, which is basically a way to communicate between your JavaScript side and your Android native side. So here we have a function called sayText, which is basically native code that is using text-to-speech. So in the web view, when you tap on a player name, the Android native code would be executed to pronounce the name. And this is how I send over the list data from Android to JavaScript side. And in the client solution, we have the www folder, which contains my web content. And regarding the web application, I use a template system with JS renders, and I have two templates, one for the standard row and another one for the row after you tap on the player name. And in the function initWithData, this is called once the data is ready and the view is ready, and we use the template system to populate based on the data. And for the CSS, I have a conditional CSS for portrait and landscape orientation. And this enables us to have responsive design. And you can develop using your usual tool and Chrome directly. And that makes it easier then to see, without being on a device, how it will be. And this is what you've seen earlier in the video with the end result. So I hope you like this example. If you have more questions, feel free to drop some comments on the video, and I hope you appreciate it. Thanks for watching.